I think we're working now. This is just a quick video. A friend of mine has asked me to do a quick summary of my 3 years on the Triumph Sprint GT. I purchased the vehicle in 2016, so it's just pipped the 3-year mark. It's done nearly 7,000 miles in a variety of uses, mostly touring, which is what it's made for. Few lots of sort of day trip runs out. On a recent run out, he was following me and was very interested in the bike, and he asked if I put a YouTube review on. I'm not a YouTuber, so you're not going to get pictures of the bike and riding through country lanes and lots of views. This is just going to be quickly what I feel of it. Firstly, to get any preconceptions out of the way, it's a very old school bike. It's got a good amount of power, I think about 130 brake, widespread of torque to make for nice, smooth, progressive riding, but it's a heavy bike. I think the specs tell you it's about 268 fueled. That's with 2 panniers on. Put some luggage in the top box and you're way up there. Without, it's probably down around the 230, 235. So obviously you can trim the bike to how you're going to use it, ride across France and take all the boxes off or leave them on as you wish. It is, as I say, a heavy bike. It's an extremely long bike. It does tend to display that in a couple of different ways. One, it's very stable, which I think is what the Triumph boys were aiming for when they designed it. Two, when it comes to steering the bike, it can be a bit stubborn. In the real twisty stuff in Spain, in the Pyrenees, you know, there was a lot of sort of body motion to get it to sort of flick around the corners, and it won't flick as such. But if you put the effort in, it will steer fine, and it's actually really rewarding to drive like that. For normal use, you pick a line, go through smoothly, wonderful. Of course, a line is always what you can see, and very often there's something that happens mid-line that may cause you to pick it up or whatever. And again, as I say, it needs to be manhandled a little bit. It doesn't sort of, I'm not going to say it doesn't suffer falls, but yeah, you've got to move it around and make it go where it wants, otherwise it will habitually stand up and put you in the nearest hedge, or, God forbid, the oncoming traffic. Brakes they're fine, they've got lots of power, but they're very wooden. I think it's a comment I've heard on some other Triumphs. Not a lot of feel. You can sort of put 2 fingers on it and think there's not much there. Squeeze it a little bit more, even with 2 fingers, and it starts to sort of really slow down quickly. But there's that initial bite in the front, certainly has got lacks a bit of feel. It's on standard pads and everything, so you could probably enhance that with some different pads. And I don't really see anything wrong with it, it's just what it is. And to be honest, probably Triumph have engineered it a little bit to accommodate the use it was made for. There's nothing worse than passengers banging heads with you every 5 minutes just because you put a finger on the brake. The rear brake I find it's very good. It really sort of, I use the rear brake quite a lot. It's heavily, to say a heavy bike, and it's very softly suspended, which when you first ride it you think, oh my lord, this is soft. It manages to somehow work really well in our pothole-strewn roads in England. It really does perform very well on pretty rough road surfaces. Quite how they've done it, I don't know. Initially there was, obviously you listen to all these people on forums, and somebody said, oh, wind the back in and it sharpens up the front, and it does. What I found with doing that was winding up the back sharpened the front, but then when I was braking heavily in corners, I was getting the ABS kicking in on the back wheel, which, as I say, I habitually do trail. And in a couple of occasions, certainly in the Pyrenees, changing down a gear on heavy braking, it was going sideways a few times, which is very, very good fun, as long as it doesn't get out of control, of course. I've now backed it off a bit, and it's riding much better, actually. as I say, it's just getting your head dialed into that amount of body movement and pressure needed to steer the bike quickly. As far as the actual comfort of the bike goes, it's no VFR. VFR is a much smoother package, everything, controls-wise, everything. The Triumph is a little bit coarser. The clutch is heavy. I find that to be a little bit of a pain. There's a little bit of buzz through the bike, which, as I say, is part of it, and they will say it's character. I'm sure they're right. And in terms of, I don't see an issue with it. I have, say, done many miles. It has a comfortable riding position, and you can do many miles on it. The screen, it's the SE model, so it's got all the sort of gel seat, the screen and the heated grips. The screen is okay. I don't have a major issue with it. It puts the wind just probably, I'm going to say, at the top of the helmet. It's not quiet, it's not overly noisy. It obviously works. When it rains, it's a pain. The rain stays on the visor, so you have to sort of put your head to one side or wipe it. So I have no real complaint on the screen. It's not the prettiest screen. I'm sure there's a more effective and possibly aesthetically pleasing double bubble you could put on it. I'm not bothered. The heated grips work. They've got two settings, medium and hot. I think somewhere in the manual it says put them on hot and then back to medium, so obviously not to eat into the sort of battery resource or blow the alternator apart. They work fine. The grips themselves are not the most aesthetically nice grip to hold to, but again, they look very old, but they work. The switch is pure Austin Allegro. It sits down on the side cowl, and it is a bit sort of like Heath Robinson. It really does look a bit poor, but again, it works, and I think that's really what the bike is all about. It's not an overly wonderful piece of kit. Price wise, it was I think $899, so it's under £9,000 for the bike. So yeah, it's built to a price to a degree. The older ST, I have ridden an older ST, and it's a better bike in some respects. Certainly when you're charging about, it's more sports bike. It's like a heavy sort of sports bike of its era. It has some touring credentials, and to be honest, it's an almost bike. And again, I would say that the GT is, again, it's that compromise. The bars are neither high nor low, and there's times, if anybody buys one, there is times when you would wish you had the bar risers on, and there are other times when you'd wish you had the Sprint ST bars on, which would be a little bit lower. But again, I've no real issue with the bars. It feels sometimes, again, because you're trying to turn it quickly, you almost wish you had some wider bars on it, but you can't have everything. The luggage is something wonderful. It is straight off the Trophy, I believe. Actually, I know it is off the Trophy. It fits on this model really easily. Just lift it straight off. It's dead easy to get on and off. They do weigh a ton. They are waterproof, and I say of extremely good quality. The big problem with the luggage is it's a darn sight wider than the bike, and of course then you have the danger that one day you'll forget it. I don't really ride with the rear boxes on a great deal, and when I do, I'm paranoid about clipping a car, because you're filtering or whatever, and as I say, however wide the bike is, those bags are 6 inches wider each side again. Fuel economy is fairly good. As I say, the engine is strong. It's not got the sort of the pokey feel of the ST. There's a slight difference in it, not a massive difference. The torque spread is definitely wider on it. You don't really sort of need to rag it out. Revving it to up beyond a certain point just gets a bit of noise. Obviously, when it selects into the next gear, it then goes a bit quicker, but hey, that's the nature of any engine. The torque, as I say, is really very, very good. The grumbles on the bike, heat. Triumphs always have heat. I don't know why, but they seem to suffer heat. The GT has got a larger oil cooler, I know. I'm not sure about the radiator, but it does run hot. Another one of the problems you can have with the bike is occasionally start it. If you start it and stall it and go to start it again, it just as if it's got a dead battery. You then leave it, count to 3, and it'll start perfectly. That, I believe, is due to the battery wiring, which is not as good as it could be. And there's somebody on one of the forums that supplies you new battery kits for sort of 40, 50 quid or something, which cures that problem. I've never really seen the need to change mine. It has done it once or twice, and it just like for a second you think, oh, the battery, and then it starts the second time. So that's just one to watch out for. The original tyres were, I don't like to say appalling, because it's, manufacturers put these things on and whatever, but I didn't have a lot of joy with them. The front went out very quickly. It went square in actual fact. Weight distribution on the bike is, I think, a 50-50, which is very much like an adventure bike. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, the front tyre went square very quickly, and then it really steered like a pig. It really did sort of refuse to turn and then drop like a stone. Again, it was like not an issue. I knew they were gone, and I put a set of Avon Sprints on there. The Avon Sprint STs, I think they are. Handles like a dream again now, no issues. What have I done to the bike? Venture Shield. The Venture Shield is like armour fend, or one of these clear foils you put on the bike. Mainly for the rear boxes, because as soon as you get over it, and I've got pretty good inside leg, 33 inside leg, you still end up kicking the edge of it. So yeah, the armour fend is doing its job there. It's got some sort of kick marks on it, which won't polish out the Venture Shield, won't polish out the Venture Shield. But around the tank, but I don't on the tank, so I don't run a tank pad. I always found those a little bit unsightly. So it's got this Venture Shield stuff on it, down the sides of the tank and on the top of the tank and all across the fairing. One or two bits I cocked up, but basically it's all good. I've also got it polished with, I think it's called G-Tech, like a ceramic polish. It's one of those tongue-in-cheek sort of thing, but yeah, it does seem to work. The water beads off it really well, and it's one of those good quality polishes that I think it's G-Tech. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's G-Tech, but yeah, it's a good quality ceramic polish. It's pretty much like they use on all the posh cars and charge you a fortune for. So that seems to work well. Modifications I've done to the bike. I have taken off the exhaust pipe and replaced it with a Scorpion. It's a Scorpion, stainless steel Scorpion pipe. Not particularly for sound, although it does sound nice with it. The original pipe is relatively noisy in itself, but it weighs a ton. I dread to think how much it weighs. Two-handed job when you lift it off the bike. It's huge and it's pretty unsightly, a little bit like the Kawasaki GTR 1400 or Concours, the American call it. It seems to protrude an awful long way. Obviously that's for EU 4 legislation, or 3, didn't get 4. That was why the bike was binned. To rework it to EU 4 standards, which strangely they did for the Tiger, was going to cost money, and the bike was not a seller. As I say, it was a last hurrah for that particular frame model designation, if you like. But yes, the Scorpion exhaust sounds really nice on there. I don't take the baffle out. It's noisy enough. They're a noisy, mechanical, as I say, rough sort of sounding bike. You know when the one's coming, you can hear the whine, and it just is what it is. It's a superb bike for travelling distances swiftly. I wouldn't say it's fast, although, let's be real, any bike that's capable of sort of sub 150 miles an hour, in theory, speed is a fast bike. So yes, you could if you rag it, you're going to be three-figure speeds very quickly. It just sits there at normal speeds fine. I've had no issues with the bike. The right-hand mirror got belted on a ferry, and it's vibrating slightly, and I understand that is an issue that can occur with them. I believe there is some sort of fix for it, but it's not vibrating like mad, so I'm not bothered about it. The mirrors, aesthetics of the bike are important to me personally. It all looks good. I like the indicators in the mirrors. I've changed the lenses from orange to clear and then put orange bulbs in it, just because I thought it weird that the back ones were clear and the front ones were orange. The levers on the bike I changed in an effort to get some more adjustment. There were Triumph levers, long Triumph levers, which look nice, but to be perfectly frank, have not given me any more movement. So it was a bit sort of waste of money. They were a deal, so it wasn't too much of an issue. The foot pegs on the bike are fairly